Run, baby. Don't stop. Don't look back. Those were the last words 8-year-old Aria Hayes heard before the gunshot ended her mother's life. Now she lay curled inside a hollow log, her torn dress frozen to her skin, her bare feet blue and numb. The men with flashlights were getting closer. The dogs were barking, and Aria had stopped shivering, which meant the cold was winning. 300 yards away, Master Chief Garrison Reese Blackwell watched his K9 freeze mid-stride. Ranger's ears pricked towards something only a military working dog could detect. Something alive. Something dying. Before we begin, tell us where you're watching from in the comments below. Subscribe and follow this story to the very end. What happens next will stay with you forever. The nightmare came again at 0300 hours, the same as every night for 11 months. Reese Blackwell jerked awake with his hand already reaching for a weapon that wasn't there. His chest heaved. Sweat soaked through his shirt despite the frozen air seeping through the cabin walls. The faces were still there behind his eyes. Petty Officer Torres, Chief Mitchell, Lieutenant Kowalski, his teammates, his brothers, dead because he had hesitated 1 second too long. Ranger pressed his warm body against Reese's leg. The German shepherd's amber eyes were steady in the darkness. The K9 had learned the rhythm of these nights, had memorized every pattern of his master's pain. He didn't whine or bark. He simply waited, present, impatient, until Reese's breathing slowed. "I'm okay, boy." Reese's voice was hoarse. "Just the dream again." Ranger's tail thumped once against the floor. He didn't believe the lie, but he accepted it. 7 years of combat tours had taught the K9 when to push and when to simply stand guard over a wounded soul. Reese sat in the darkness, listening to the wind howl outside. The Colorado Rockies in January offered no forgiveness. Temperatures dropping to 30 below. Snow measured in feet rather than inches. Isolation so complete that a man could disappear entirely. That was exactly why Reese had chosen this place. 38 years old and already broken. 15 years of service. 4 combat tours. And it all ended with a single moment of doubt. 1 second of hesitation while enemy fire pinned them down in a Syrian courtyard. 1 second that became an eternity while his finger froze on the trigger. A civilian woman had stumbled into his crossfire, a mother clutching an infant, and Reese had hesitated, had waited for her to clear his line of sight. 1 second. The enemy grenade came over the wall in that 1 second. Torres took the blast, trying to shield Mitchell. Kowalski died, returning fire to cover the retreat. 3 men, 3 families destroyed, 3 flag-draped coffins that should have been prevented. The Navy had offered Reese a medal. He had requested discharge instead. Medical retirement. Post-traumatic stress disorder. Living now on $1,847 a month disability. As if there was a therapy that could undo what his 1 second of humanity had cost. Ranger nudged his hand, breaking the spiral of memory. "You're right, boy. Time to move." He dressed quickly. NWU Type 3 uniform out of habit. The digital camouflage had become a second skin. His movements were automatic, economical, the muscle memory of a man who had spent his adult life preparing for violence. The Sig Sauer P226 went into his belt holster. Also habit. Also unnecessary in these empty mountains. But Reese had stopped trusting empty places. Ranger waited by the door. 7 years old and still powerful, his tan and black coat thick against winter. 85 pounds of muscle, intelligence, and loyalty. The German shepherd had served 4 tours beside Reese, had detected 32 improvised explosive devices, had taken shrapnel in Syria that matched the scar on Reese's own shoulder. They had been wounded together. They had survived together. And when Reese left the Navy, Ranger came with him, the only partner he could still trust. The door opened onto white silence. Snow had fallen through the night, covering yesterday's trails. The cold hit like a physical blow. 5 degrees Fahrenheit, sharp enough to steal breath. Cold was simple. Cold was honest. Cold didn't care about medals or failures. They moved into the forest on their standard patrol route. Ranger ranged ahead, his training never fully switching off. He still cleared terrain, still checked scent patterns, still communicated with body language that Reese could read like words. An hour into the patrol, Ranger stopped. Reese halted immediately, every sense sharpening. The German shepherd stood rigid, ears pricked forward, nose lifted to catch something the wind carried. "What is it, boy?" Ranger didn't move. His body had shifted from casual patrol to active alert. The same posture he'd shown in Afghanistan when he detected explosives. In Iraq, when he found survivors in collapsed buildings. "Show me." The K9 moved forward, stalking, picking his way through the snow with purpose. Reese followed, hand-dropping to the 6th hour. The forest was empty. He had made certain of that, but 15 years of combat had taught him that empty places could fill with danger faster than thought. 20 minutes later, Ranger stopped again. This time Reese saw why. A vehicle lay on its side in a ravine. White transport van, half buried by drifted snow. The front end crumpled against a boulder. Windshield shattered. One door hanging open. Reese approached carefully. Ranger circled the vehicle, nose working, reading the story that scent told. Then the canine looked back with an expression that needed no translation. Blood. Reese reached the van and looked inside. The driver's seat was empty, but dark stains covered everything. More blood on the dashboard, on the passenger seat, and there among scattered debris a child's shoe. Small, pink, size 2, covered in frozen crystals. His heart rate spiked despite years of training. Track it, Ranger. The German Shepherd had already found the scent trail. He moved away from the van, following invisible markers through the snow. His body was low-focused, the intensity that said he'd locked onto something important. Reese followed. His mind ran calculations. The crash looked recent, no more than a day old based on snow accumulation. The blood suggested severe injuries, and that child's shoe meant someone small had been here. Ranger picked up speed, weaving between trees, crossing a frozen creek, climbing a ridge that offered no shelter from wind. Reese's lungs burned with cold air, but he kept pace. The canine wouldn't track this hard unless he'd found something worth the effort. They crested the ridge and Ranger stopped dead. A hollow log lay at the base of an ancient pine, partially covered by snow. Ranger approached slowly. His posture shifted from tracking to protection, the same stance he took when guarding wounded soldiers. Reese's throat tightened. He moved forward, crouching low, and looked into the hollow log. Blue eyes stared back at him. A child? A little girl, maybe 8 years old, curled into the smallest possible shape. Her blonde hair was matted with ice. Her lips had turned the color of winter sky. Her thin dress, torn and soaked, clung to a body that had stopped shivering. She was dying. Hypothermia. Stage 3. Core temperature somewhere around 86 degrees, the body shutting down. Minutes away from unconsciousness that would become permanent. Hey, he kept his voice soft, controlled. I'm not going to hurt you. I'm here to help. The girl's eyes widened. Something flickered across her face. Terror. No, she tried to scramble backward, but her body wouldn't obey. Don't take me back. Please, nobody's taking you anywhere. He stayed still, hands visible. I'm Reese. This is Ranger. We're going to get you warm. The sheriff. The girl gasped. He shot Mama. He's coming for me. Reese's mind raced. Sheriff shot her mother. This wasn't an accident victim. This was someone running from murder. What's your name? Aria. Tears froze on her cheeks. Aria Hayes, please don't let him find me. Reese made a decision, fast, certain, no room for hesitation. Aria, I'm a Navy SEAL. That means I know how to protect people. And right now, I'm going to protect you. He reached out slowly. I need to pick you up. I need to get you warm. Can you trust me? Aria stared at him. Her eyes moved to Ranger, who had positioned himself at the entrance to the log, guarding her. The canine's amber eyes were calm, steady, patient. Your dog, she whispered. He looks like Scout. Who's Scout? Mama's dog. Fresh tears spilled. They shot him too. He tried to protect her. Reese felt something crack in his chest. This child had watched violence that would break most adults, had witnessed murder. And now she lay freezing because running into a blizzard seemed safer than whatever she was running from. Ranger protects people, Reese said quietly. That's what he does. And now he's going to protect you. We both are. Aria's small hand reached out, touched Ranger's fur. The canine didn't flinch, just let her feel the warmth, the steadiness. Okay, Aria whispered. Reese lifted her carefully, tucking her against his chest, wrapping his jacket around her. She weighed nothing. 52 pounds when she should be closer to 60, as if fear and cold had already started stealing her substance. Hold on to me. He turned toward the cabin. Ranger lead. The German Shepherd moved ahead, clearing the path, checking for threats. Reese followed at the fastest pace he dared, hyper-aware of the fragile body in his arms. Aria pressed her face against his shoulder. He could feel her struggling to breathe. Stay with me, Aria. We're almost there. He killed her. The words came out slurred. Made me watch. Said I would disappear like the others. What others? But Aria had gone limp, consciousness finally slipping away. Reese's jaw tightened. He moved faster. The cabin felt like a furnace after the forest, though the temperature inside was barely above freezing. He laid Arya on the cot nearest the stove and went to work with the precision of a man trained in combat medicine. Her frozen clothes came off first. He wrapped her in every blanket he owned, positioning her body to maximize heat absorption. Her core temperature was dangerously low. He could tell by the waxy quality of her skin, the shallow breathing, the absence of shivering. "Come on, Arya, stay with me." Ranger lay beside the cot without being told, pressing his warm body against the blankets, adding his 90 pounds of heat. The K9 understood hypothermia, had helped treat it before in mountains and deserts. An hour passed, then two. Slowly color began returning to Arya's cheeks. Her breathing deepened. The trembling started. A good sign, her body recovering enough to generate heat again. Rhys allowed himself to exhale. He made soup, heating it until it steamed. When Arya's eyes finally opened, he was ready. Small sips. He helped her sit up, held the cup to her lips. "Your body needs to warm from the inside." Arya drank obediently, her eyes never leaving his face. When she spoke, her voice was stronger than before, though still fragile. "Why did you help me?" "Because you needed help. The others didn't." Her lower lip trembled. Mama was screaming, and they just drove past. Rhys's blood went cold. "Arya, tell me what happened. Tell me everything." If you're watching this from somewhere in the world, comment your city below. Subscribe to follow what happens next. Because what Arya revealed would expose a conspiracy that reached higher than anyone imagined. The story came out in fragments, broken by tears and pauses when the memories became too heavy. Rhys listened without interrupting his expression, neutral even as rage built inside him. Arya's mother, Victoria Hayes, had been a social worker, 34 years old, dedicated, the kind of person who actually read the files. 3 months ago, she'd started noticing irregularities. Children being transferred to out-of-state facilities. Paperwork that didn't match. Families being told their children were better off elsewhere. She'd investigated, quietly at first, then with growing horror as patterns emerged. 47 children over 15 years, and all funneled through the foster system, all transferred to facilities that didn't exist. Empty lots, disconnected phone lines, addresses that led to abandoned buildings. Mama said someone was selling them. Arya's voice was hollow, like they were things, not people. She'd discovered that the man running the operation was her own husband, Arya's stepfather, Sheriff Donovan Cade. They'd been married 18 months. Victoria thought it was a second chance at happiness. Cade had seemed perfect, protective, a pillar of the community. Mama was going to tell the FBI, Arya said. She had files, evidence. She said the sheriff couldn't stop what was coming. What happened then? He found out. Arya's hands clenched. Someone told him. He came home early, January 14th, 9 o'clock at night. The words came faster now. Cade had shot their dog first. Scout, a shepherd mix who'd been Arya's companion since she was 5. The dog had been barking, trying to protect them. One shot and Scout was gone. Then Cade turned to Victoria. Arya watched through a crack in the closet door, watched her mother beg, watched her offer to destroy the files, to forget everything, to never speak of it again. But Sheriff Donovan Cade didn't stop. He smiled. Arya's voice dropped to a whisper. He pulled out his phone, put it on speaker, called someone, said she knows everything. 47 files. FBI meeting scheduled 0900 hours tomorrow. Evidence location unknown. What's the play? Rhys leaned forward. Who did he call? A man. I didn't know his voice then, but I've heard it since. Arya's eyes were ancient with knowledge. The man said permanent solution. Stage accident. Burn the house. No evidence, no witness. Mama screamed when she realized, when she understood who he was talking to. Then Sheriff Cade shot her, sent her mass while smiling, while I watched. The silence was absolute. Rhys could hear his own heartbeat, could feel Ranger's breathing, could sense the weight of this child's trauma. He made you watch, Rhys said quietly. He wanted me to understand. Arya met his eyes. Said it was important I see what happens to people who cause problems, who betray family. Then he put me in a van with Deputy Wyatt Brennan. Said I was going to disappear like the others. The van crashed. Arya touched her head where Rhys noticed a fading bruise. Deputy Wyatt was driving too fast. Black ice. We hit something. The van rolled. I woke up and Deputy Wyatt was unconscious. The door was open, so I ran. You ran in bare feet, through a blizzard. Mama told me to run. Arya's chin lifted. Her last words, Run, baby. Don't stop, don't look back. So I didn't. I ran until I found the log, until I thought I was going to die. She looked at him with eyes that had seen the worst and somehow still held hope. But then you found me, you and Ranger, and I didn't die. Reese sat back processing the information. A corrupt sheriff running a child trafficking ring. A murdered social worker who had gathered evidence. A child witness who could bring down the operation if she lived long enough. Aria, the evidence your mother gathered. Do you know where it is? She hid it, told me in case something happened. Aria's voice dropped. She said if anything happened, I should go to the old Riverside Mill. Look under the third hearthstone on the west side. Everything was there. Everything needed to stop him forever. Did you tell anyone else? No, Deputy Wyatt asked in the van. But I didn't tell him. Mama said the sheriff has friends everywhere. Police, judges, social workers. She said I couldn't trust anyone. Reese studied this 8-year-old child who'd survived murder and hypothermia, who'd kept her mother's secret even when threatened, who'd chosen to risk death rather than trust the systems that were supposed to protect children. Do you trust me? Aria looked at him. Then she looked at Ranger, who had risen and was now sitting at attention, watching her with calm, intelligent eyes. Ranger trusts you, Aria said finally. And Scout trusted Mama. And he was always right about people. So yes, I trust you. Reese nodded, made another decision with certainty. Then here's what's going to happen. You're going to rest, you're going to eat, and I'm going to make some calls. I know people who can help, people the sheriff can't reach or bribe. He'll come for me, Aria's voice wavered. He won't stop. He can try. Reese's voice hardened. But he's never faced someone like me, and he's never faced a K9 like Ranger. He squeezed her hand gently. Get some rest, Aria. You're safe now. Promise? I promise. Aria's eyes closed, exhaustion, overwhelming fear. Within minutes, her breathing deepened into sleep. Ranger moved to lie beside the cot, positioning himself between Aria and the door. His amber eyes met Reese's. We protect her now. Reese crossed to the radio setup, old equipment but functional. He tuned to a frequency that wasn't listed in any official directory and keyed the mic. Viper 2, this is Shadow Actual. I need a secure line. Static crackled. Then a familiar voice. Shadow Actual, this is Viper 2. Reese, that you been Wady Deacon Jameson Archer, former SEAL, now FBI. I need everything you can find on Sheriff Donovan Cade, County Jurisdiction, Colorado. Also a social worker named Victoria Hayes. Should be listed as missing or deceased in the last week. A pause. Reese, you're supposed to be off-grid. What's going on? I found something. Someone, an 8-year-old girl. She says Sheriff Cade murdered her mother and is running a trafficking operation through the foster system. 47 children over 15 years. Jesus. JD's voice went tight. Can you verify? Give me 2 hours. Copy that. Viper 2 out. Reese set down the mic and moved to the window, staring out at white expanse. Somewhere out there, a corrupt sheriff was searching for a child who could destroy him. And here in a cabin in the middle of nowhere, a broken seal had just found a reason to stop running. Ranger padded over and sat beside him, their shoulders touching. I know, boy. Reese's voice was barely a whisper. I thought we were done, but she needs us. He looked at Aria one more time. At this child who'd survived the unsurvivable. And we don't walk away from people who need us. Not anymore. The radio crackled exactly 2 hours later. Shadow Actual, this is Viper 2. I've got your intel. And Reese, you're not going to like it. So, go ahead, JD. Reese kept his voice low. Aria was still sleeping. Ranger had positioned himself at the cot, ears rotating, tracking every sound. Victoria Hayes, age 34, reported missing 4 days ago, January 14th at 2200 hours. Her daughter Aria is listed as a runaway. Sheriff Donovan Cade reported both disappearances personally, filed all the paperwork, led the search efforts. Making himself the hero. That's the surface. Here's where it gets ugly. The line crackled. Sheriff Cade married Victoria 18 months ago. Within 6 months, she started filing internal reports about irregularities in the foster care system. 14 reports over 12 months, every single one dismissed. Who dismissed them? County Commissioner Walter Brennan, Superior Court Judge Patricia Morrison, and State Child Services Director Thomas Griffin. JD paused. I ran financials. Commissioner Brennan received $20,000 in campaign donations from Cade's Family Trust. Judge Morrison's daughter got a full law school scholarship from a foundation Cade sits on. Director Griffin bought an Aspen vacation property 2 years ago. Paid cash, $350,000, on a government salary of $92,000. The pieces were falling into place. Not just a corrupt sheriff, an entire network. What about the children? 47 children over 15 years, all transferred to out-of-state facilities. I called 12 facilities. 7 numbers disconnected. 4 addresses don't exist. One is a strip mall in Nevada. JD's voice was heavy. Reese Victoria gathered evidence of her own. If it's comprehensive, we're talking conspiracy, racketeering, human trafficking, federal crimes that bypass local corruption. What about Cade's background? Master Sergeant, Army Military Police, 12 years. Exemplary record. Wife Diane and daughter Annabelle. The daughter drowned June 2009. Lake accident. Wife committed suicide 3 months later. Reese felt cold certainty. When did the first child disappear? August 2009, 2 months after Diane's suicide. JD let the timeline speak. Boy named Marcus Webb, 8 years old, transferred to a Utah facility that closed with no forwarding records. A man loses his daughter, loses his wife. 2 months later, starts selling children. If his daughter couldn't live, why should anyone else's? Can you get a team to my location? Federal resources take time through proper channels. I can have agents at your position in 72 hours. That's 3 days. It's the best I can do, but Reese, there's more. The Amber Alert went federal. Description matches you. Former military, PTSD, armed and dangerous. Every law enforcement agency in 3 states is looking for a man with a large dog and a kidnapped girl. Cade's using the system. He's using everything. By morning, your face will be on every news station. They're calling you unstable, a veteran who snapped. The irony wasn't lost on Reese. He'd spent 11 months hiding because he hesitated. Now he was being hunted for the opposite, for acting, for protecting. 72 hours, JD, get your team together. What are you going to do? Reese looked at Arya. I'm going to get Victoria's evidence. Then I'm going to make sure the world knows what Donovan Cade really is. If you move, you're exposed. Every cop will be looking. Then we move fast and smart. The old training was coming back. Keep this channel open. I'll check in every 12 hours. Stay alive, brother. The line went dead. Reese set down the mic and found Arya watching him. You were talking about Mama's evidence. You should be sleeping. I heard you. Arya sat up. You're going to the mill to get what Mama hid. That's the plan, but you're staying here. No, the word carried absolute conviction. Reese turned to face her. This 8-year-old who'd survived murder in a blizzard was looking at him with eyes that had forgotten how to accept no. Arya, it's too dangerous. I know where it is. 3rd Hearthstone from Fireplace, West Side. She stood on trembling legs. Mama told me, because she knew if something happened, I'd be the one to finish it. You're 8 years old. I'm 8, and I watched my mother die because she tried to save 47 children. Arya's voice didn't rise, just carried weight. You promised to protect me. That means helping me finish what she started, not locking me away. Reese studied her, saw determination, the tilt of her chin that said she'd rather die trying than live in safety while her mother's murder went unanswered. He'd seen that look in the mirror. If we do this, you follow my orders. Exactly, no questions. Can you do that? Can you stop treating me like I'm helpless? The challenge hung in the air. Ranger watched, head tilted. Fair enough. Reese allowed himself the smallest smile. Partners then, you, me, and Ranger. But partners trust each other. When I say run, you run. When I say hide, you hide. Agreed, agreed. They shook hands. Her palm barely covered half of his, but the grip was firm, committed. We move at first light, get some rest. Arya returned to the cot. But before she lay down, she looked at him. Reese and Syria, when you hesitated, the 1 second. What about it? That second means you're the right person. Someone who hesitates before killing is someone who'll fight before giving up on a kid. She pulled the blankets up. Mama would have liked you. The words hit harder than any bullet. He sat in darkness after Arya fell asleep. Ranger moved to sit beside him. She's something, isn't she, boy? Ranger's tail thumped once. 72 hours. We just have to keep her alive for 72 hours. The K9 pressed against his leg, a reminder they'd survived worse. Outside, the wind began to die. By morning, the sky would be clear. Perfect visibility for anyone searching. Reese checked his watch. 0400. 3 hours until dawn. 3 hours to plan an operation that would put them in conflict with every law enforcement officer in Colorado. He crossed to his gear locker, began pulling equipment. Tactical vest, extra ammunition, first aid kit, the tools of a trade he'd thought he'd left behind. But some skills never disappeared. They just waited for the right mission. Dawn came cold and clear. Arya woke to find Reese already moving. Packing supplies, checking weapons. Eat. He handed her an energy bar and water. We leave in 20. She ate without complaint. Ranger sat beside her, accepting small pieces when she offered them. Reese had plotted their route. 2 hours through forest to avoid roads. Approaching Riverside Mill from the north. Getting in, retrieving evidence, getting out. Simple in concept, potentially fatal in execution. One thing you need to understand, Reese said. We're avoiding everyone. Police, civilians, anyone who might have seen the Amber Alert. To them, I'm a dangerous kidnapper and you're a victim. They'll try to rescue you. What do? You scream, you fight. You tell them I'm protecting you from the man who killed your mother. Most won't listen, but some might hesitate long enough for us to get clear. Arya nodded, processing like a soldier would. No panic, just tactical acceptance. They moved out at 0600, Ranger on point, Reese in the middle, Arya behind stepping where he stepped, learning to move quietly. 2 hours of careful movement. Arya never complained, never asked to rest, never showed any sign of the hypothermia that had nearly killed her. They were half a mile from the mill when Ranger stopped, hackles rising, a low growl. Reese went to one knee. Arya immediately dropped beside him. Ranger's nose pointed toward a clearing. Someone was there. Stay here. Don't move. Reese crept forward, 50 yards, 40, 30. Then he saw him, a young man, mid-20s, deputy sheriff's uniform, sitting on a fallen log head and hands, shoulders shaking, crying. Deputy Wyatt Brennan, the one who'd been driving the van. Wyatt looked up. His hand went to his weapon, then froze when he saw Reese's Sig Sauer aimed at his chest. Don't. Reese's voice was flat. Hands where I can see them. Wyatt slowly raised his hands. I'm not here to arrest you. I'm here to help. Talk fast. My sister, Iris Brennan, 16 years old. 3 years ago, she got in trouble. The court put her in foster care. Emergency placement. Here, Wyatt's words tumbled over each other. Sheriff Cade handled everything. Told me she was going to a facility in Nevada. I believed him. He raised me after our parents died. What happened to Iris? I don't know. I called the facility. Disconnected. I drove there last year. Empty lot, no records. Wyatt lowered his hands slowly. Victoria Hayes came to me 6 weeks ago, asked about Iris's case. I told Cade because I thought I was helping family. The implications were clear. Wyatt had unknowingly signed Victoria's death warrant. After the van crashed, I went back to the station. Cade was on the radio. I heard him say the Hayes girl is the last loose end. Permanent cleanup required. That's when I knew. Arya's voice came from behind Reese. You were taking me today. Both men turned. The girl had ignored orders. Had moved forward with Ranger. The K-9 was sniffing Wyatt with professional interest. I didn't know. Wyatt's face was pale. I swear. I thought I was protecting you. Arya studied him. Your sister is gone because of what Cade does. Because you didn't ask questions. I know. And now you want to make it right. I want justice for Iris, for Victoria, for all of them. Ranger completed his inspection. Sat down and looked at Reese. The K-9's body language was clear. No deception, no threat. Human cleared. Arya, Reese said quietly. This is your call. He drove the van. He was part of the system. Do you trust him? She walked forward until she stood directly in front of Wyatt. Mama said sorry is just a word. Actions matter. Her voice was steady. You want justice for Iris. More than anything. Then help us get into the mill. Help us get Mama's evidence. And if you betray us... She didn't finish. The promise of consequences was clear. Wyatt nodded. The mill is guarded. 2 deputies, 8-hour shifts. But there's a shift change at 1400. If I call in a fake emergency, I can pull the guards for 4 hours. Do it. Arya made the decision. We go in at 2100 tonight. Reese felt pride swell. This child was taking charge, becoming the protagonist instead of waiting to be rescued. Wyatt, he said, keeping the Sig Sauer ready. You betray us, you don't get arrested. You just disappear, understand? I understand. They spent the day in a cave system Wyatt knew from childhood. His grandfather had worked the mines. He knew the terrain, the approaches, the blind spots. Cade paid for security cameras 6 months ago, Wyatt explained. Said it was about preserving history. Now I know better. He was protecting whatever Victoria hid. Arya sat with Ranger stroking the K9's fur. Did you know Mama was gonna die? Wyatt flinched. No, I swear, if I'd known, you would have stopped it. I would have died trying. She nodded slowly. Okay, I believe you. Why? Because Ranger trusts you. And Scout trusted Mama. He was always right about people. She looked at the deputy. But if you're wrong, if this is a trap, you'll have helped kill an 8-year-old the same way you helped kill your sister. The words hung like ice. Wyatt's face went white, but he nodded, accepted the weight. 2100 hours came dark and cold. Riverside Mill stood silent against the night sky. 3 stories of weathered wood, moonlight painted it in shades of gray. Wyatt's false emergency had worked. The guards were gone. 4-hour window, maybe less. Stay close, Reese whispered to Arya. Ranger leads. I follow. You stay between us. Understood. They moved through darkness like ghosts. Ranger cleared each approach. The K9's training took over. The mill's side door hung half off its hinges. Inside, the air was stale, cold. Arya pulled out a small flashlight, pointed toward the far wall. There, the fireplace. It was massive, built from river stones. The hearth was crumbling. Arya knelt, counted stones. 1, 2, 3. The third stone was slightly raised. She worked her fingers under its edge. Reese moved to help, but she shook her head. This was her mother's legacy. She needed to retrieve it herself. The stone lifted. Beneath was a hollow space. Inside, wrapped in waterproof material, was a container. Arya opened it with trembling hands. Hard drive, USB stick, thick folder of documents, photographs. Reese flipped through quickly. Financial records showing wire transfers totaling $180 million over 15 years. Offshore accounts, names of children with dates and amounts. $50,000 per child, $80,000 for specific requests. 47 children, 47 lives sold. Then he found the photo that changed everything. A charity gala. December 2023. 3 men in expensive suits. Sheriff Cade on the left. An older man Reese didn't recognize in the middle. And on the right, smiling for the camera, was Senator Whitmore Sterling, chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee, presidential candidate, the man whose campaign was built on protecting children. Oh my God, Wyatt stared. That's Sterling. Arya's voice was quiet, certain. He came to our house last summer, brought me a doll, $200, but his smile didn't reach his eyes. Mama saw it too, pulled me away. Reese felt cold certainty. This wasn't just a corrupt sheriff. This was a national conspiracy. He pulled out the satellite phone. Shadow Actual calling Viper 2. Go ahead, Reese. We have the evidence, all of it. And JD photographs connect Cade to Senator Whitmore Sterling. Silence. 5 seconds. 10. Sterling. Are you certain? Charity gala photo, December 2023, and Arya recognizes him. He came to their house. If Sterling's involved, this goes beyond county corruption. We're talking federal level, judges, prosecutors, CIA assets, people with unlimited resources. How long until you can get a team? 72 hours through clean channels. Headlights suddenly cut through the mill's windows. We've got company, Wyatt hissed. Multiple vehicles. Reese moved to the window, 6 vehicles converging. Sheriff Department SUVs, armed men deploying with military precision. They'd been found. How? Arya's voice was tight. Wyatt's face went pale. My jacket. He tore it off. Sewn into the collar was a GPS tracker. Cade must have planted it this morning. A megaphone crackled. Sheriff Donovan Cade's voice boomed. Arya Hayes, this is Sheriff Cade. Come out. The dangerous man who took you will be arrested. We're here to rescue you. If this story is reaching you, share it with someone who needs to know that truth finds a way. Subscribe to see how an 8-year-old faces down a conspiracy. Arya looked at Reese, at the surrounded mill, at the evidence in her hands. What do we do? Reese assessed. Outnumbered. Outgunned. No escape route. Every officer outside thought they were rescuing a child. Then Wyatt spoke. There's another way. The cellar. Mining tunnels connect to drainage system. Unstable, but they run for miles. Can you navigate them? I was 8 last time, but I remember the entrance. Arya didn't hesitate. We go down, now. Reese grabbed the evidence. Ranger moved to Arya's side. Wyatt led them to a trapdoor hidden beneath debris. Boots were on the porch. Voices coordinating entry. Seconds away. You first, Reese told Arya. Then Wyatt, Ranger and I cover. She dropped into darkness. Wyatt followed. Reese was descending when the door exploded inward. Flashlight beams cut through dark. Orders shouted. Ranger jumped through the trap door. Reese followed, pulling it closed as the first deputy entered. They landed in absolute darkness. The air was thick, stale. This way, Wyatt's flashlight clicked on. Follow me, step where I step. They moved through tunnels that felt like being swallowed. Wooden beams groaned, water dripped. The passage narrowed until Reese had to turn sideways. Behind them, muffled voices. The trap door opening. Pursuit beginning. How far? Reese kept one hand on Arya's shoulder. 200 yards, maybe more. Wyatt's voice cut off. There, the drainage outlet. Light appeared, gray, faint, dawn. They emerged into freezing air, a drainage culvert. Behind them, pursuit echoed through the tunnel. Now we run. Reese grabbed Arya's hand. Ranger lead. The K9 took off, reading terrain, finding the safest path. Reese followed, pulling Arya along, feeling Wyatt keeping pace. They ran for 30 minutes, until lungs burned and legs screamed, and pursuit had faded. Finally, Ranger stopped. Another cave system, smaller but defensible. Arya collapsed, gasping. But when she looked up, her eyes were fierce, triumphant. We got it. Mama's evidence. Reese allowed himself 5 seconds of relief. Then training took over. We rest 2 hours, then move again. JD's team is 72 hours out. Until then, we stay mobile. Wyatt stared at his hands. I led them to you, the tracker. You didn't know. Arya's voice was gentle. And you got us out through the tunnels. You chose the right side. My sister is still gone. 47 children are still gone. Nothing changes that. No, but what you do next changes what happens to the children still out there. Still waiting. The words came from an 8-year-old, but the wisdom was ancient. Reese pulled out the satellite phone. Time to update JD. Time to accelerate. Please tell me you got out clean. We got out. We have the evidence, but Cade knows, which means Sterling knows. Then move through unofficial channels. Call in every favor. Because if Sterling has the resources, you think we're running out of time. A pause. There's someone, Senator William Hayes, Sterling's rival for 20 years. If I bring him the evidence, do it, but verify every step. No leaks. Understood. I'll make contact within the hour. Another pause. Reese, once we go public, there's no taking it back. Sterling will throw everything at you. Reese looked at Arya, at this child who'd survived because she refused to let her mother's death be meaningless. Then he'd better bring his best, because we're fighting. Stay alive. The line went dead. Outside, the eastern sky was lightening. Day 3 since Victoria's murder. Day 3 of Arya's survival against impossible odds. Ranger settled at the cave entrance, on guard, watching. Arya moved to sit beside Reese. When your team comes, when we testify, what happens to me after? The question had been hovering unspoken. There are good foster families, programs for children who've been through trauma. I don't want foster care. I saw Mama's files, saw what happens, saw how Cade used it. Then what do you want? Arya was quiet. When she spoke, her voice was small, vulnerable. I want to stay with you and Ranger. I want to be a family. The words hit like the grenade that killed his team. Unexpected. Devastating. This child was asking him to be what he'd never imagined. A father, a protector, not for a mission, but forever. Arya, I'm broken. I have nightmares. I live on $1,800 a month. I burn eggs. I don't know how to be a parent. You know how to keep promises. You know how to fight for people. You know how to not give up. She met his eyes. That's what Mama did. That's what makes family. Not blood. Just choosing to stay when it's hard. Reese felt something break open. The walls he'd built after Syria. The isolation he'd chosen as penance. This child who'd lost everything was offering him something he'd thought was gone. Purpose, connection. A reason to stop running. If we survive this, he said carefully, if we get through the trial, then yes, you can stay with me and Ranger. We'll be a family. Promise, promise. Arya wrapped her arms around him, buried her face against his chest, and for the first time since her mother's death, she cried. Not from fear, not from pain, but from relief, from hope. Ranger moved from guard position to press against them both, completing the circle. 3 survivors bound by trauma and choice. They had 72 hours until extraction. 72 hours to stay alive while Senator Sterling mobilized every resource. But they had something Sterling didn't understand, something money couldn't buy. They had each other, and sometimes that was enough to change the world. The extraction came at dawn on the 4th day. 3 black Suburbans appeared on the ridge exactly where JD had promised. Senator William Hayes had moved faster than expected, 48 hours instead of 72. The kind of speed that came when powerful people burned political capital for something that mattered. Reese watched through binoculars, 4 FBI agents in tactical gear. JD leading, moving with the precision of operators in hostile territory. That's them. He lowered the binoculars. Ready. Arya stood with Ranger, the evidence container clutched to her chest. 4 days since her mother's murder. Her face was thinner, her eyes carried shadows. But her spine was straight. I'm ready. They moved down the ridge. Wyatt had left 12 hours earlier, turning himself in with full confession and cooperation agreement. His testimony would corroborate everything. But the heart would rest on what Arya carried. Victoria Hayes' final gift to a world that had failed the children she tried to save. JD reached them first. He looked at Reese, then at Arya, then at Ranger. His expression said he understood. The broken seal had found something to fight for. Arya Hayes. He crouched to her level. I'm Special Agent Jameson Archer. I'm going to help keep you safe. Ranger already keeps me safe. She didn't move closer. And Reese. I know, and they're coming with you, all the way. One of the agents stepped forward. Sir, we should move. If Cade or Sterling have assets, was that? They do. Reese handed over a dossier. Sheriff Cade's been mobilizing private contractors, former Blackwater types. I've spotted 3 teams in 48 hours. JD's face went hard. Sterling's escalating. He filed a federal injunction 6 hours ago trying to block investigation. Can he stop this? Not anymore. Senator Hayes went to the Attorney General. By the time Sterling knew federal marshals were being briefed, JD checked his watch. We're arresting Cade and Sterling simultaneously. 0600, right about now. His radio crackled. Viper 2, this is Alpha Team. Subject Cade in custody. Seconds later, Bravo Team reports Senator Sterling secured. Subject attempting to flee via private jet. Arya's grip tightened. They got him. They actually got him. We got him, JD smiled. Because of you, because you ran into a blizzard instead of giving up. The convoy moved fast, 3 hours to Denver, then to a secure facility where Arya would be protected while prosecutors built their case. The news broke before they reached city limits. Senator Whitmore Sterling, presidential candidate, arrested on charges of human trafficking, racketeering, conspiracy to commit murder, and treason. Cable networks went into overdrive, Sterling's face on every screen, his politician's smile replaced by rage, handcuffs, screaming about witch hunts. But there were other images. Victoria Hayes' photo, a woman who'd died trying to save children, grainy footage of Sheriff Cade being led into federal custody. The media wanted a simple story. Hero agents, corrupt officials, justice served. They didn't know the real story yet. Didn't know about an 8-year-old who'd walked into a blizzard, about a broken seal who'd found redemption, about a K-9 who'd bound them together. That story would come out at trial. Senator Hayes' compound was everything Reese expected. 12-foot walls, armed security. But there was warmth. Family photos, grandchildren's drawings. Hayes met them in his study. 62 with silver hair and the bearing of someone who'd spent decades in political combat. Arya, he shook her hand like she was an adult. I'm Senator Hayes. I've been waiting for evidence like this. Sterling and I went to Yale's together. I watched him change. Watched power corrupt him. Mama's evidence will prove it. Your mother's evidence will burn his network to the ground. Hayes opened the container, began sorting with efficiency. Financial records showing $180 million moving through shell companies. Audio recordings of Sterling ordering permanent solutions. Witness statements from 3 terrified social workers. He held up the charity photo and this, Sterling at a children's advocacy dinner, standing next to the trafficker. The optics alone will destroy him. When does trial start? Reese asked. Federal prosecutors want 3 months to build an airtight case. Sterling has the best lawyers money can buy. We get 1 shot. 3 months. Arya's voice was small. That's long. Hayes looked at her with admiration. You survived 4 days that would break adults. You can survive 3 months of preparation. And after we testify, the question hung. Hayes glanced at Reese, reading the dynamic. That depends on factors. Foster care, counseling, finding a home where you can heal. He paused. Unless you have family preferences, I want to stay with Reese. Arya moved beside him. Ranger immediately positioned between them. He promised, we're family. Hayes studied them. The man who'd learned to kill and live with guilt, the 8-year-old who'd survived murder and conspiracy, the K9 who'd bonded them. Adoption requires background checks, home studies, evaluations. It's not simple when the prospective parent is single with PTSD. I can pass whatever tests you need. Reese's voice was steady. I kept her alive when the entire sheriff's department was hunting us. I'll keep her alive for the next 80 years. I believe you will. Hayes closed the container. Let's get through the trial first. The months that followed were strange. Arya lived in protective custody, attended school via Zoom, worked with trauma counselors. Some days were better. Some nights she woke screaming, and only Ranger's presence calmed her. Reese stayed in the guest house, close enough to respond, far enough to maintain propriety for social workers. 3 weeks before trial, his counselor asked a question. Do you think you hesitated in Syria because you saw your own future daughter? Reese stared. I didn't have a daughter. You do now. Maybe some part knew that 1 second would lead you to save Arya. Maybe it wasn't hesitation. Maybe it was destiny. He didn't believe in destiny. Didn't believe Torres and Mitchell and Kowalski died so he could be positioned to rescue Arya. But he believed in choices, in helping instead of walking away, in keeping promises, in becoming worthy of the trust Arya placed in him. That was enough. The trial began April 15th, Federal Courthouse, Denver. The gallery packed with media, victim families, the curious. Security was unprecedented. Metal detectors, armed marshals, snipers on rooftops. Because Sterling's network hadn't collapsed quietly. 3 judges resigned, 8 prosecutors under investigation, 23 state officials arrested in coordinated raids. Sterling's defense team was what $100 million in legal fees bought. 5 attorneys from D.C.'s most prestigious firm. They'd filed 17 motions to dismiss, challenged every piece of evidence, but they couldn't challenge Victoria's documentation. Couldn't explain financial records showing Sterling's accounts receiving $80,000 47 times. Couldn't dismiss audio recordings of Sterling's voice ordering permanent solutions. Still, they had one card, one witness they could discredit, an 8-year-old girl. If you've ever needed courage to face impossible odds, what happens next is for you. Share this with someone who needs to remember truth is stronger than power. The prosecution spent 2 weeks building their case. Financial experts traced money through 12 shell companies. Digital forensics testified about metadata. Former associates described operations. 47 children, 47 files, each presented with photos from before they entered the system, smiling, whole. Then the transfer orders, the fake addresses, the trail going cold. 3 of the children had been found, rescued. Their testimony was devastating. Adults now, but their eyes still held ghosts. Then came Deputy Wyatt Brennan. His sister Iris had been one of the 47. He described his complicity with shame that aged him. I trusted Cade. I didn't ask questions. Iris disappeared because I was a coward. Victoria died because I told Cade she was investigating. All I can do is tell the truth and hope it prevents one more child from suffering. The defense tried to break him, tried to paint him as desperate. But Wyatt had taken a 10-year plea when he could have negotiated less. He wasn't testifying to save himself. Then came the moment everyone waited for. April 18th at 900 hours, the prosecution called their final witness, Arya Rose Hayes. She walked to the stand with Ranger beside her. The judge had granted an exception. The K9 could remain during testimony. Reese sat in the front row. Close enough Arya could see him. His hands were clenched white. The lead prosecutor, a woman named Julia Harper, who'd spent 20 years with the Justice Department, approached with gentle authority. Please state your name for the record. Arya Rose Hayes. Her voice was clear, strong. I'm 8 years old. My birthday was March 3rd. Reese made me chocolate cake with strawberries because Mama loves strawberries. A soft murmur rippled through the gallery. The detail humanized her. Arya, do you know why you're here? To tell the truth about what happened to Mama and to the 47 children she tried to save. Can you tell us about your mother? Arya's composure wavered. Mama was a social worker. She helped kids who didn't have anyone fighting for them. She worked late every night for 6 months. Sometimes I'd hear her crying. She said it wasn't fair. What was happening to children? What did she discover? That 47 children had been transferred to places that didn't exist. That someone was selling them. Arya's hands gripped the witness box. She found proof, names, money, everything. What did she do with that proof? She was going to tell the FBI, had a meeting scheduled January 15th at 0900, but she died on January 14th. Can you tell us what happened? This was it, the moment that would make or break the case. Arya took a deep breath. Her eyes found Reese. Sheriff Donovan Cade came home early. He was my stepfather. Mama tried to hide me in the closet, told me not to make a sound. What did you do? I hid, but I could see through a crack. I saw everything. What did you see, Arya? Sheriff Cade shot our dog Scout first. He was barking, trying to protect us. One shot. Scout died. The courtroom was silent, every eye on the small girl. Then he turned to Mama. She begged. Said she'd destroy the evidence. Just please don't hurt me. Please think of Arya. What happened next? Arya's voice didn't waver. He pulled out his phone, put it on speaker, called someone, said she knows everything. 47 files, FBI, meeting 0900 tomorrow, evidence location unknown. What's the play? Did you recognize the voice that answered? Not then, but I've heard it since, Arya pointed at Sterling. That man, he said permanent solution, stage accident. Burn the house. No evidence, no witness. Sterling's lawyers erupted. Objections about hearsay, about child reliability. The judge gavelled them down but allowed the objection noted. Arya, Prosecutor Harper continued, are you certain it was Senator Sterling's voice? Yes. How can you be certain? Because he came to our house 6 months before, July 2024. Mama invited him to dinner because she respected his children's advocacy work. He brought me an American Girl doll, $200. What do you remember about that visit? His smile didn't reach his eyes, like he was wearing a mask. He kept looking at me in a way that felt wrong. Mama saw it. She pulled me away, made excuses. Later she cried, said she couldn't believe she'd invited him into our home. The detail was devastating, truth that couldn't be fabricated. Prosecutor Harper let it sink in. After the phone call, what happened? Mama screamed. She realized who Cade was talking to, who'd ordered her death. Then what? Arya's composure finally cracked. Tears spilled, but her voice remained steady. Sheriff Cade smiled. He actually smiled, like he enjoyed it. Then he shot Mama, center mass. She fell, reached toward me, whispered, run, one last time. Then her hand dropped. He made you watch. He wanted me to understand, said it was important I see what happens to people who cause problems, who betray family. Arya wiped her eyes. Then he put me in a van with Deputy Brennan, said I was going to disappear like the others. The rest of her testimony detailed the crash, the 3-mile run, Reese and Ranger finding her, the escape, retrieving evidence. Sterling's defense cross-examined for 3 hours, suggested trauma corrupted memory, implied Reese coached her, questioned how an 8-year-old could remember such details. But Arya didn't break. Every attack met with calm certainty. Every attempt to trip her revealed more corroboration. Her account matched Wyatt's timeline, matched phone records showing Cade called Sterling at 21:15 January 14th, matched audio recordings on Victoria's USB drive. When the defense gave up, Prosecutor Harper had one last question. Arya, why didn't you surrender to police? Because Mama said Sheriff Cade had friends everywhere. Police, judges, social workers. The whole system was infected. The only person I could trust was someone outside it. And you chose Master Chief Blackwell. I chose Ranger first. He's a K-9, 7 years combat tours. He knows bad people from good people. When he sat calmly and wagged his tail, I knew Reese was safe. Arya looked at the K-9. Dogs don't lie. Dogs don't have agendas. Scout trusted Mama and tried to protect her. Ranger trusted Reese and protected me. That was enough. The simplicity hit harder than any legal argument. A child making life or death decisions based on a dog's judgment because the human systems designed to protect her had become weapons. The defense had no response. Arya stepped down and walked to Reese. He pulled her into his arms, held her while she finally broke down. While terror and trauma crashed over her, the judge called recess. The gallery emptied, but Reese stayed with Arya in his lap and Ranger pressed against them. A broken seal and traumatized child in combat K-9. You did it, Reese whispered. You stopped them. Did I? Will they convict? Yes, I promise. The jury deliberated 8 hours. May 7th at 1500 they returned. Senator Whitmore Sterling stood as the foreman read. On the charge of conspiracy to commit human trafficking of 47 minors, we the jury find the defendant guilty. The gallery erupted. The judge gavelled for order. On the charge of conspiracy to commit murder first degree regarding Victoria Hayes guilty. Sterling swayed. His lawyers grabbed his arms. On the charge of racketeering under RICO statute guilty. On the charge of treason for selling classified documents guilty. 18 counts total. Guilty on everyone. The judge's voice cut through chaos. Defendant remanded to custody pending sentencing. Bail denied. Marshals moved to take Sterling. As they led him past, he stopped. Looked at Arya with rage and disbelief. You destroyed me. A child destroyed me. Arya stood, all 4 feet 2 inches, met his eyes without flinching. No, sir. You destroyed yourself the first time you sold a child, the first time you chose money over human life. Her voice was steady. I just told the truth about what you'd become, and truth always wins. Mama taught me that. Sterling tried to respond, but marshals pulled him away. The doors closed, and the man who'd nearly become president was gone. Sheriff Donovan Cade had been sentenced 2 weeks earlier. 6 consecutive life sentences plus 50 years. Deputy Wyatt Brennan received 10 years with parole eligibility in 6. Additional arrests came in waves. 12 judges disbarred or imprisoned. 23 state officials charged. The infrastructure that enabled Sterling's operation for 15 years came crashing down. But the biggest change came May 20th, sentencing day. Senator Whitmore Sterling stood before the judge one final time. No longer in expensive suits, just orange jumpsuit and handcuffs. Judge Rebecca Sullivan showed no mercy. Mr. Sterling, you held a position of public trust. You were elected to protect the vulnerable. Instead, you preyed upon them. You sold children. You murdered a woman trying to save them. You corrupted every system designed to prevent exactly what you perpetrated. This court sentences you to 7 consecutive life sentences without possibility of parole. Additionally, death penalty will be sought for treason charges. All assets totaling approximately $180 million are seized and directed to victim restitution. Sterling opened his mouth, closed it. For once, the politician had nothing to say. Take him away. As marshals let him out, Sterling looked at Arya one final time. She stared back, unafraid. The 8-year-old who'd brought down an empire because she refused to let her mother's sacrifice be meaningless. Then he was gone. Forever. Share this message. One voice speaking truth can shake mountains. Subscribe to see what happens next. Because Arya's story isn't over. June 15th arrived with Colorado sunshine. Family Court Denver. A different proceeding, smaller, more intimate, but equally important. Judge Sarah Blackwell presided. 58, 20 years on the bench. But this case was different. Everyone knew the names, knew the story. Master Chief Garrison Blackwell, you've petitioned to adopt Arya Rose Hayes. You understand this is permanent, that you'll be responsible for her welfare until adulthood. I understand, Your Honor. You're a single male with PTSD living on disability income. Why should this court believe you're capable of providing a stable home? Reese had prepared answers, but standing with Arya beside him and Ranger between them, rehearsed speeches felt wrong. So he told the truth. Because for 11 months I was selfish. I hid because facing the world meant facing what I'd done. I thought isolation was penance. Then I found Arya dying in a hollow log, and she reminded me that hesitation isn't always weakness. Sometimes it's humanity. Sometimes that 1 second prepares you to be exactly where you need to be to save someone. He looked at Arya. She taught me that broken doesn't mean worthless, that guilt can become purpose, that the worst thing can lead to the best thing if you're brave enough. I can't promise I won't have nightmares. Can't promise I'll be perfect. But I can promise I'll fight for her every day. Protect her. Believe in her. Give her the home Victoria would have wanted. We've already survived the impossible together. Whatever comes next, we can survive that too. Judge Blackwell was quiet. Then she looked at Arya. Young lady, you've been through more than any child should endure. Why do you want Master Chief Blackwell to adopt you? Arya stood, straightened her spine. Oh, I remember one. Because he kept his promises. When he said he'd protect me, he did. When he said we'd get Mama's evidence, we did. When he said we'd bring down the bad people, we did. But mostly because he sees me, not as a victim, not as the poor girl who watched her mother die. He sees me as Arya. as someone who can be scared and strong at the same time. Mama died giving me the chance to survive. Reese taught me how to do more than survive, how to live, how to fight, how to matter. She reached for his hand. We're already family, have been since he pulled me out of that log. This just makes it official. Judge Blackwell smiled, the first genuine smile. It is the judgment and order of this court that the petition is approved. As of this moment, Aria Rose Hayes becomes Aria Rose Blackwell. You are now legally and permanently father and daughter. The gavel came down. Aria turned to Reese with tears streaming. I have a dad, a real dad, forever. And I have a daughter, the bravest person I've ever known. They held each other while Ranger barked once, the only time the K-9 had made noise in a courtroom. Pure joy, completion. The social worker approached with adoption certificates, documents that transformed hope into permanence. Congratulations, Master Chief Blackwell. Congratulations, Aria. You're officially a family. We've been a family since January 15th, Reese said quietly. This just means everyone else knows it too. They left the courthouse into sunshine and camera flashes. Media had shown up, wanted to document the moment, but Reese and Aria walked past without stopping. This wasn't for cameras. This was for them. For Victoria, who'd given everything. For Scout, who'd died protecting. For Torres and Mitchell and Kowalski, who'd taught Reese that 1 second could change everything. For everyone who'd been broken and chose to keep living. 7 months passed. December 15th arrived with early snow and cold that reminded Aria of the night she'd almost died. But the memory had changed. No longer pure terror. Now it was proof. Proof she'd survived. Proof that sometimes miracles came on frozen feet. The press conference was held at Colorado State Capitol. Senator Hayes had arranged everything. Aria stood at the podium with Reese and Ranger. 9 years old now, taller, stronger, but still carrying the weight of 47 children. Today, the Frozen Witness Foundation announces a milestone. 100 children have been rescued from trafficking networks across 12 states. The crowd applauded. Victim families, advocates, survivors. My mama saved the first 47 with her evidence. We've saved the next 100 with her courage. $18 million from Senator Sterling's seized assets funds our operations. Every dollar he made hurting children now goes to saving them. But 1 million children are still missing in America. 1 million families still waiting, still hoping. Our work isn't done, it's only beginning. She looked at Reese, at the man who'd gone from broken seal to devoted father. Mama used to say that the best people are the ones who've been broken and put themselves back together. The ones who understand what it means to survive. That's who we're looking for, survivors, fighters, people who know that broken doesn't mean worthless. People who'll stand up for kids who have no one else. If that's you, we need you. The Frozen Witness Foundation is hiring investigators, therapists, legal advocates, people who'll do what Mama did. Fight for children the world has forgotten. The speech continued, details about operations, success stories of reunited families, plans to expand to all 50 states within 3 years. But the heart was simpler. One person could make a difference. One voice refusing to stay silent could change the world. After the press conference, they drove to the cemetery where Victoria Hayes was buried. Aria knelt beside the headstone with wildflowers from the garden she'd planted at their new home. The cabin was gone, replaced by a house with 3 bedrooms in a yard where Ranger could run. Hi, Mama, it's Aria. Well, Aria Blackwell now. She arranged flowers carefully. Sterling and Kate are in prison forever. All 100 bad people you documented have been stopped. We found 100 more children, brought them home. I have a dad now, Reese. He's good, Mama. He makes terrible eggs and has nightmares sometimes, but he loves me, the way you loved me. I miss you every day. But I'm okay, more than okay. I'm finishing what you started. Her voice strengthened. The foundation is growing. We're finding them, Mama, every last one. I won't stop until the number hits 0, until no one else has to watch their parent die for doing the right thing. I love you. I'll always love you. And I promise I'll make you proud. Reese stood back, giving her privacy. Ranger sat beside him, amber eyes tracking every movement. Still protecting, still vigilant. When Aria returned, her eyes were red, but her spine was straight. Ready to go home? Yeah, I'm ready. They drove back as snow began to fall. Light at first, then heavier. The kind that transformed the world into something clean and new. That covered old scars with fresh possibility. That night, they sat on the porch watching stars emerge between clouds. The same stars that had watched over Arya in the frozen forest. The same stars that had guided Rhys through combat. The same stars that had witnessed every moment of their journey from strangers to family. Dad, Arya used the word carefully, still getting used to how it felt. Yeah, sweetheart. Do you think Mama sent you to find me? Rhys thought about Syria, about the 1 second that had haunted him for 11 months, about how that moment had led him to Colorado, to isolation, to being in exactly the right place to hear Ranger alert. I think your mama made sure I was in the right place at the right moment. The rest we did together. Do you still have nightmares? Sometimes less than before. When I wake now, I don't just see the people I failed to save. I see you. See Ranger. See proof that 1 second of humanity led to something good. Arya leaned against him. That's what Mama used to say. That everything happens for a reason. That even the worst things can lead to the best things if we're brave enough. She was wise. She was, and I'm going to be just like her when I grow up. Finding lost kids, bringing them home, making sure no one else disappears. Rhys pulled her close. You're already like her. You've been like her since you chose to run into a blizzard instead of giving up. Since you chose to trust a stranger because his dog had kind eyes. Since you stood in a courtroom and faced down a senator with nothing but truth. We saved 100 children together. What do you think we can do in the next 10 years? Change the world, Arya said simply. One frozen witness at a time. Ranger pressed against them both, completing the circle. 3 survivors bound by trauma and choice and the decision to protect each other. The stars burned overhead. The snow fell in silence. And somewhere in America, children were still missing, still waiting, still hoping someone would care enough to find them. But now they had a foundation built on the sacrifice of a social worker who died for truth, built on the courage of an 8-year-old who'd survived the unsurvivable, built on the redemption of a broken seal who'd learned that hesitation could become heroism. The Frozen Witness Foundation, growing, fighting, saving. One voice, one truth, one child at a time, until the number hit 0, until every last one came home. This story is dedicated to the real children still waiting to be found. If you know a child in danger, speak up. Visit thefrozenwitnessfoundation.org. May God protect every child's journey home. On screen, statistics appeared. White text on black. 47 children from Victoria Hayes' evidence located and safe. 100 children rescued by Foundation in first-year home with families. $180 million trafficking network destroyed. Senator Whitmore Sterling, life imprisonment without parole. Sheriff Donovan Cade 6, consecutive life sentences. 1 million children still missing in America. The fight continues. The final image showed Arya, Rhys, and Ranger silhouetted against a Colorado sunset, standing together, looking forward. The screen faded to black. Then 4 words appeared. For Victoria, for the 47, for every frozen witness still waiting for justice. The end, but also the beginning. Because some stories don't end. They transform, they inspire. They become movements that outlive the people who started them. This was one of those stories, and it would continue as long as there were children who needed saving and people brave enough to answer the call. Word count 13,024.